The friend who will betray you first. A Byzantine emperor once saved a stranger's life, raised him from nothing, gave him wealth, education, and power he never could have earned on his own. That stranger became his closest friend. That friend had him murdered. One of the coldest, most uncomfortable lessons. Welcome back to the Life Library. Last time we covered Never Outshine the Master. Today we're going somewhere darker. Law 2, which basically says be very careful who you call a friend, and don't be afraid to work with people you don't even like. I want to be upfront here. This law is genuinely controversial, and by the end of the video I'll tell you exactly where I think it goes too far. But there's a real insight buried in it that's worth understanding, even if you don't fully agree with it. Why friends are more dangerous than you think. The core claim of Law 2 is uncomfortable. The people closest to you are often the ones positioned to hurt you the most because they know you best, and because closeness breeds a kind of envy that strangers never develop. Think about why this happens. With friends, there's an unspoken agreement to keep things pleasant. Nobody wants to be the friend who's brutally honest about your bad business idea. So friends tell you what you want to hear. Not necessarily because they're lying maliciously, but because honesty has a social cost between friends that it doesn't have between strangers. The danger isn't that your friends are secretly evil. It's that you never get accurate information from them, and you don't find out who they really are under pressure until it's too late. A Byzantine emperor, Michael III, who plucked an unknown stable hand out of obscurity after he showed courage and strength, then elevated him into a position of enormous power and education. Over time, that elevated friend grew resentful rather than grateful, eventually orchestrating Michael's murder and taking the throne for himself. The flip side, why enemies can become your most loyal allies. Here's where the law gets genuinely interesting. Green argues that a former enemy you bring into your camp will often work harder for you than a friend ever would because they have something to prove. A friend assumes the relationship is secure. A former rival doesn't assume anything. There's a famous example tied to Abraham Lincoln, who was known for bringing political rivals into his cabinet rather than freezing them out. The idea being that you neutralize a threat more effectively by absorbing it than by leaving it outside, angry and unaccounted for. This shows up today in business constantly. Companies hire a competitor's sharpest executive instead of just competing against them. Politicians appoint rivals to their cabinets. Even in sports, a coach who once tried to beat you now coaching your team brings a chip on their shoulder that a lifelong insider might not have. An enemy you've converted has something to prove. A friend assumes they've already proven it. Where I think this law goes too far. Now, here's my honest pushback, because I don't think you should swallow this law whole. This framing treats relationships almost entirely as instruments, tools to be deployed for advantage. Taken at face value, never trust friends, use enemies, is a recipe for a profoundly lonely, paranoid life. There's a real body of research on loneliness and isolation showing that genuine, trust-based relationships are one of the strongest predictors of long-term well-being, not a liability to be managed. I think the more useful, less extreme version of this law is narrower. Be careful mixing friendship with situations that require brutal honesty or competition. Hiring a friend for a job, going into business with one, or putting a friend in a position to evaluate your work objectively, that's a real, well-documented danger. It doesn't mean abandon trust in your personal life entirely. The useful version of this law: separate WHO you trust from what you ask of them. So here's the real question this law forces you to ask. In your life right now, is there a friendship doing double duty as a working relationship where honesty is being sacrificed to keep the peace? And on the flip side, is there a rival in your life you've never considered bringing onto your team? I'd genuinely love to hear your take in the comments, especially if you think I'm being too soft on this law or too harsh. Next time, we're heading to Law 3. Conceal your intentions.